Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Studio Live today. My name is Pete Johns, and in this video, I'll be answering the most common questions and your questions, if you have any, right here on the show. This is Logic Pro for iPad. If you're not familiar with it yet, or you're just thinking about checking it out, I've got a one-stop shop for you over at logicipad.com. Here is the page, and this has all the information you need to get started. My complete beginner's guide. So someone was asking in the pre-chat, hey, do you have videos yet? Yes, we do, and they are right there. You've got all the playlist of all the videos there, links to where you can download it, use the user guide, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well, and all of the information, including your compatible iPads there. So if you're looking for information about Logic Pro for iPad, that is the place to go on the interwebs. We will be diving into Logic Pro and doing some stuff, doing some live demonstrations as we go through the show. So if you have questions though, here's all you need to do. You just need to stick a big chunky Q at the front of your comment, and I will make sure I tag that one as a question, and I'll come back and answer it as we go through the show. But to get started, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. So you do have the ability to use Logic Pro on iPad for free for a month. Now, many folks, if you used the free trial and you started on day one, which was the 23rd of May, you've got about a week left. So you've got about a week left of your free trial. So it's kind of crunch time. And I'm interested to know, for folks who have started, for folks who are using Logic Pro on iPad, how are you finding it? Are you going to stick with it? Because it is a subscription model. We might as well start out with that it is a subscription model. So in order to download Logic Pro for iPad, if you go to your app store of choice, now let's hope that they've actually updated it now so that it's actually in there, because for a while there, it didn't really show up in the app store. Even when you searched Logic Pro, you had to go a sort of roundabout way. But let's assume that here 3 weeks later, it is going to show up. There it is. It's there in the app store. So what you can do is when you first download it, it'll give you an option to subscribe, to do a free trial, and then subscribe either monthly, and it's going to be $4.99 US a month, or your country equivalent, or yearly, and it's going to cost you $49.99 US per year to actually use Logic Pro for iPad. And I've had a few questions about the subscription, because people are concerned that when you start using Logic Pro and you start, say, creating music and you start creating projects, what if you then let your subscription lapse? What happens then? Are you able to actually still use your files and come back to your files at a later date? And the answer is yes, because when you save out a Logic Pro file, it will just save the complete file, the complete project file, in your Logic Pro for iOS folder, Logic Pro for iPad here. And then what you can do is just save these in your iCloud drive, back them up to Google Drive or to Dropbox. I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit later in the show, and you can keep all of these intact. Now, you won't be able to open them unless you have an active Logic Pro for iPad subscription. But if you say you create a whole bunch over the summer, and then over winter time, you know, okay, I'm not going to have time to create. Well, guess what? You don't have to. You can actually just leave it for that period of time and then come back into it at a later stage. So as long as you've saved them in, saved your projects, you're good to go. The other thing you can do is actually save these out as stems or as WAV files. So you may be aware of this already, but when you go to export from Logic Pro for iPad, you can export it either either as a whole project, or you can export individual tracks as audio files. And that one there gives you the option to actually release and get the actual audio files. So say you're using Logic Pro for iPad, you want to go back to GarageBand for a bit, or you want to use Cubasis or Audio Pro, or stick it onto Persona Studio One on your PC, whatever you want to do, you can actually do that, because you can export your project really easily as individual files. Now, you will, of course, lose things like your drummer. You won't have the ability to change things there. You'll lose your virtual instruments. They'll be turned into WAV files, so you won't be able to edit. But let's just say you wanted to have the ability to remix it at a later stage. You can definitely do that here with Logic Pro. Hello to folks who are here with us live. If you do have any questions, once again, feel free to do exactly as DJ Lion Mix King has done, and put a Q in front of your comment, and I'll make sure I tag that as a question. But hello to you. Hello to Thomas Christ. G'day to Andy, Andy Aspen. Is it Andy Aspen or Andy Aspine? Either way. Hello to Leslie Ann M. Justice. And you've been learning Been busy for half a year. That's a long time to be busy. There's the link to. So again, there's someone asking about, do we have videos soon? Yes, we've got a heap of videos. So as I mentioned before, if you go to logicipad.com, which is over here, then just go to this second link down. This one will take you into the Logic Pro for iPad video tutorial list, starting with the beginner's guide, how to import some of the live shows that we've done there. And then as we come down through here, I've started covering the most commonly asked questions. So how to use markers, how to use multiple tempos, how to use multiple time signatures, multiple key signatures, exporting a song, finding the guitar tuner, tempo mapping, fading in, fading out, importing MIDI. And yesterday I released my podcast, which was the 10 tips for beginners for Logic Pro for iPad. So if you are looking for all the tips and all the things that are going to help you out, just go to that one-stop shop, logicipad.com, and it'll take you there, and then you can jump in and check out the videos right here on the YouTube channel. Hello to Mark Bro, thank you for dropping on by, and thank you to our moderator, Mr. Thomas Christ. I know, thank you, Thomas. I'm doing this extra show at the moment because I'm getting so many questions and so many people asking things about Logic Pro for iPad. I wanted to make sure that I had a spot where folks can jump in and ask any questions, and we could talk about some of the questions I've had that have come in during the week. Righty-go. How do you, question here from DJ Lion Mix King, how do you swap the drum kit in patterns? Let's dive in and take a look at that, shall we? So most of the time, if you're swapping an instrument out, and the other thing I'll probably say right up front is I'm still learning. This is still a work in progress for me. So you might have noticed, in fact, I've had some corrections on some of the videos recently where folks have said, yeah, you did this, but you could have done it this way. And I guess that's the good thing, is that I'm learning as I go as well. So as I learn and as I develop things, I'll share them here on the channel. So in terms of changing out your instrument, if you go to your browser, yes, Logic Pro Weekly, like GarageBand Weekly, but for Logic. So there's two ways to change things out in here. If we've got an instrument set up here and we want to swap it out, if you have the replace mode on, so if we've got this, say this bass sound here, which is this one, which has no audio apparently. Let's see if we can. Okay, I'm not sure why that's not playing. Good demo, Johns. Let's do it with drums then instead. So if we wanted to find a drum kit, so if we go to our instruments and we want to go say drums, and we want to go to a full kit here, and we want to be able to bring in a kit, we can actually just drag this one onto a new track, and that's going to create a brand new drum kit. We can then go to our play surfaces and start playing it in. So that's going to work for us fine. So let's just record in a little bit of drum here. Fantastic drum pattern that we've put in there. So there's our drum sound. Now we can replace the kit. So if we want to change this kit, we can actually replace it by just tapping on each one of these, and it should replace it over on here, which it's done. So now it's got the Apogo Funk kit assigned there, and we can come in here and play this out. So basically, whatever you're using, it comes down to using your browser here, grabbing whatever track that you want to actually change, and then if you've got the replace mode on, which is this little blue button here, you just simply tap it, and it'll instantly change to that new, and it will replace in there. Now you can use the drum kit designer, and this is something I haven't actually played with yet, but you can use the drum kit designer to actually change in and out kit pieces and create your own custom drum kits. It's something I'm looking forward to playing with, but I haven't actually done a whole lot with it yet. It's probably a good point to pause here and say that when I don't know how to do something here in Logic Pro for iPad, what I do is come up to the top here and tap on this one and go into the help file, because there's a really good help Logic Pro user guide here. So there's a couple of ways you can use the Logic Pro user guide. You can actually just dive straight in here to the table of contents and hit the plus button there and find out what you want to play around with. So that's an option. So if you want to come in here to the instruments and then you wanted to go to the drum kit designer and drum kit designer overview, then you can jump into that section right here on the website. The other way, if you're nerdy like me, is to download the whole freaking thing, the PDF. So the PDF guide is down the bottom here. If you tap on that one, it's going to open up your whole PDF, 945 pages of goodness there. And it's pretty handy though, because you can actually tap and go straight to things. So if you're right there in the table of contents, you can actually tap in and go to different pages and then get yourself stuck all the way down there. My apologies, coughing right into the microphone there. I need some water. It is early morning here in Adelaide. So yes, you can jump in there and it does really help you out. And as Thomas says, the help file is very good, easy to find what you need to know. Absolutely. And I'll be doing a series, which I'm actually starting the recording of today, a series all about reading the full manual, RTFM, read the full manual. So I'll be going through each of these. So if there's things that I'm not an expert in right now, I will hopefully be by the time we do the entire series and I've read the whole full manual, because that's what the F stands for in RTFM, isn't it? Yeah, read the full manual. Then we'll know by then. But yeah, it does give you a whole lot of really good functionality to edit and change things in here, because we can actually have the ability to edit each and every little piece of kit in here and create our own custom drum kits, which is good, because if you've used GarageBand, sometimes what I've had to do in the past is use across a couple of different kits. And what I've had to do is, instead of just bringing the kit pieces I want into one drum kit and then having like the multiple cymbals or maybe a different snare sound than the kick sound, you have to use it on like separate tracks. So you have to have one track for your SoCal kit and one track for your heavy kit, and then just put your snares on one and your kick drum on the other. It makes it a hassle. So yeah, if you want to do that, that's how you do it. How do you MP3 files or WAV, etc.? So in terms of importing, this is one of the things that we were going to talk about here on the show. So we will jump in. I'll just say a quick hello and thank you to Adam Gehring for the kind donation. So thank you for the $4 super sticker. Adam is a very good dude. We hear from Adam about once every week or two. He usually comes in, says hello, is super nice, and leaves a donation. So thank you, Adam. I appreciate you big time. So yeah, let's talk about bringing in MP3s or bringing in WAV files or any other audio files and even MIDI files. So it is different. Here's the thing, in Logic Pro for iPad, in order to bring in a file, there's no way to import it directly from the interface here. Like you'd expect there to be, like there is in GarageBand, something here, especially in the browser, like to have such a full-featured browser and not have this, not have the ability to use this to bring in, like there should be a little option down here that's like import. But you can't bring any sounds into here, and you can't store your own sounds in here. The only way to bring them in is to use the files option in iPad, which it works okay. Let's show you how this works. So if we scroll up from there, if we go over to the Files app, what we can do is if we find any files, let's just see, do I have any MP3 files in here? I do. So I've got whatever this is. I don't even remember what this is, but let's jump in here and play this. Yeah. There you go. That's pretty cool. Let's use this, but let's use this and create like a new project to do this. Well, what we need to do is hit the three dots up the top here and go to slide over here, and then bring up Logic Pro, and it'll literally be here sliding over the side of our project. Let's go out of here and let's create ourselves a new project, shall we? So we'll go right out here. We'll go into my ideas folder. We'll create a new project here. We'll go to tracks mode, and what we'll do, we don't even have to use any of these tracks. So, what someone corrected me on is 2 days ago when I did my MIDI import video, I said, you create an audio track and then drag it in. They're like, you don't even need to do that. You don't have to decide on anything. Just hit this button at the bottom here, patches, loops, and samples, and then it'll just create a blank project and take you straight in here to your browser. But instead of bringing in a browser sound, if you want to bring in something from your own downloads, all you need to do is tap it, drag it over, and you've got a couple of options here. You can either create a new track by just dropping it there as an audio file, and then it'll simply just play that, or if you stop that, you can actually grab your file. Don't do what I just did there and tap on it. You've got to tap and hold and drag it to a track header. And now what you can do is you can create a drum machine designer, a sample alchemy, or a quick sampler. Let's try drum machine designer just because I haven't really spent a lot of time with it yet, and see what we can what we can do with this. What does it bring in there by default? This is interesting now. Oh, very cool. It's gone. So it split the drums into sections there. Which is pretty cool. So we can start playing around with that, but we can, of course, then go in and edit it, which is something that I haven't learnt myself. So telling you how to do that might be a little bit tricky because I haven't played with it myself. It's something that I do need to learn. And by the way, there's a heaps of other tutorials and people creating and sharing stuff. So Patrick at the GarageBand Guide is doing a bunch of stuff. There's Why Logic Pro Rules. There's the Music Tech Help Guy. There's a lot of people producing a lot of good content, and many of them, because they come, so here's the thing, I'm coming from GarageBand and going up to Logic Pro on iPad. A lot of people coming from Logic Pro on Mac down to Logic Pro on iPad, or at least they're sharing their knowledge of Logic Pro that way. So they're going to give you different insights because they've got more knowledge of Logic Pro on a Mac. So a lot of these sort of things like the drum kit designer, the amplifier designer, all these things that are very common for folks that are using Mac, not so common for iOS. I'm learning up to them, and they're probably getting frustrated by the fact that some of the Mac things don't do the same as what they do on the Mac version. Let's close the files. Whoop, not completely. Press the wrong button. So we'll close the files app out of there, and yeah, so we can actually play in. So it'll automatically put that as our part. But if we wanted to say play it differently here, we can come in and so we could just record along. Might help if we keep our metronome on. By the way, your undo button's your friend. Tapping on that one, and the metronome is right there. So if you want to turn your metronome on to do any recording, let's leave the metronome on and just record something a bit interesting. So instead of just having our standard track that we brought in at the start here, which was just this one, doing this, we've created quite a different vibe. And that's pretty cool because if you're starting to bring in loops and things that perhaps, you want to make sure that you're doing something different, you're using a free loop or something, you want to make sure it's different from what other people are doing, that's a cool way to do it without going into the complexity of something like the beat breaker. Just bring it in there, letting the drum kit designer do its thing and chop it up for you on the fly. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, and obviously if you bring in different sounds, it'll cut them and split them up in different ways. So we'll just delete that out for now. The other thing that we could do is you might have noticed that this sound, this one here, was not at the right tempo. So if we go put the metronome on, yeah, that's not going to work for our project, is it? If we were starting a project based on this, you can see there it doesn't line up with 2 bars there. But what we can do is actually come in here, go to our tempo and analyze the tempo, and then we can tap it again. And with the tempo analyzed, we can apply the region tempo to the project. So if we hit on that one, now it's made the project 139.7. And that's the cool thing, is it actually has decimal places. So we've got multiple tempo events here, which I'll show you in a sec, but it actually has the tempo at a decimal point. And then because we changed to this, it changes the tempo there. And if you're wondering, well, how do I view that? How do I get there? Couple of quick tips here. Firstly, double tap down the bottom here. That's going to get rid of everything. That's my, I can't remember who it was, but thank you, because that has saved me so much time and energy and effort here in Logic Pro, is to know that if you've got a whole bunch of stuff open and you just want to get back to your main screen, just what I normally do is I tap it right here next to the mixer. So if you double tap right next to the mixer, so now it's calling me a liar. There you go. Then it'll go back to your regular screen. Double tap it again, and everything you had open before will pop back up. So a quick double tap on the bottom there will keep you ready to rock and roll. So now we've got 2 multiple tempos. Where do we view them though? Where do we view these tempo? In fact, we'll move this here. Actually, I'll do that afterwards. We can view them by tapping on these three dots and going to customizing our track header. That's the wrong place. We can press this button. What did I tell you? Still learning. We can press this button to drop down our tempo track. So we can see here now that our tempo actually changes. There it's at the 139.7, and then it drops right down to 120 right there. So if we do bring this little drum beat back to here, what you'll notice is if we play this whole section, you have your original beat, and then it goes straight to 120, which is pretty cool. And we can even ramp between those tempos if we want to. So if we bring this one over here, say, and if we go to our tempo track here and add, oops, that's the wrong button, hit edit button there and add a new one here, you'll notice here that we can now move this middle section. So instead of it going directly, we can make it ramp down from one tempo to another, which creates some pretty interesting effects, I must say. So if we wanted to go with something even more dramatic, like let's move this marker right to the back of this and this one into the middle here and make it sort of very gradually drop down from that one to that one. So here's our original tempo. And you can watch your tempo at the top there slowly ramp down. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of control that you have over here using the tempo track. And to view it again, you tap on that little button there, and it's going to pop it straight up there. Just make sure that you only have the edit the pencil on when you're actually doing edits. Otherwise, just have it in move mode there. And you've also got markers in here. And if you tap and hold on this track, you can enable your time signature and your key signature track. So I've shown that in other videos, how you can actually have multiple key signatures, multiple time signatures, multiple tempos, and you can use your markers to mark out your different sections. So you can throw a marker in here, and then if you go to your edit mode by tapping on the little eye icon over here, you can actually name your sections. So if this was our intro, which is not really, we can name it, and then we can add another section by grabbing the end, dropping it back there, and then going and naming our next section. Add another one, markers, and then renaming this marker number 2 with whatever we want to call this part. The verse. And it just means that you can keep your projects a little bit more organized if you've got your markers in place like so. So yeah, I know that was a lot of sort of follow on there from how do you bring in a file, but it does show the flexibility of Logic Pro. I guess one of the key benefits of Logic Pro over GarageBand or some other DAWs is that you can bring in your files and then beat match and tempo match your projects to those, and indeed use multiple tempos within the one project, which is pretty darn cool. Yeah, that is a pro tip, Leela. Hello, by the way. Welcome aboard. I hope you are doing well. And yes, if you are enjoying it, if you're watching, whether you're watching live or on the replay, because I know it's a bit of a awkward time for some folks. It's Friday afternoon, Friday evening, so hopefully you're, if you're not here watching, you're creating, and I've got no problem with that. I know I'm a bad YouTuber. I should be like, no, drop everything and come and watch the show live. But no, I know that that's not the case. I know that there's many folks that love watching, that like catching up on the replay. And that way you can just sort of scan through, and if you see something that looks like you might enjoy, then you can just check it out. I'm in love. Its faults are simply charming little bugs. And it kind of depends. We'll talk about that in a sec. I'll hold that thought. I'll tag that one, because I will talk about my overall view and whether I'll be making the plunge and switching full time to Logic Pro, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure which way I'm going just yet. We'll talk about that. Hello to the Mix Club, the one and only Mix Club. G'day. Hello to Russ8889 as well. Thank you for joining us. Ethan Noise, Princess. Yeah, Princess popped in for a moment and then left again. She left. It's too late to say goodbye to Princess LDG. Can you manually set the project length like in GarageBand? Here's the thing. Yes, you can. So the way to do that, I found it the other day by accident. And there it is. So I was wondering the exact same thing, and I was jumping around in here just going, what if my project is literally just that long? What if I'm only making an 8-bar project? Yes, you can use this. You can use your cycle play to just have it go for that length. But then if your cycle's off, it'll just keep kind of going for what seems like forever. Here's the thing, zoom all the way out and you'll notice you got this little marker here. So you can actually bring this and drop this wherever you like, and that will limit the project to that amount of bars. So I haven't found anywhere else in the settings. I'm sure there is somewhere else in the settings where you can say set number of bars, but that's the easiest way that I found to do it, which is just to zoom all the way out, grab your little end playhead there, and then drag it to the point where you want the project to end. Just keep in mind that if you've got something that might have a tail, like a reverb tail, you probably don't want it to end right there. You usually want to give yourself, like at the start of a project, you want to give yourself a couple of bars. You usually want to give yourself a little bit of space at the end. In fact, let's turn this into, I'm going to delete out this tempo track. Select all, tap, delete. So there we go. I'm just going to remove my weird one that I did here. And we'll just use this and loop it. So we're going to use our loop feature, and just loop this out for 8 bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Give ourselves 2 bars of lead in. Give ourselves 2 bars of lead out by grabbing this one and just extending it out like that. And let's do what I would do if I was creating an actual project. But in this case, it's going to be an 8 bar little drum and bass bit built around this. I am noticing that there's a little pause at the end there, isn't there? It's almost like it's whoever created this loop didn't cut the end correctly because it's doing a little pause. I wonder if let's see if we can just do a little bit of editing on that. This will be an interesting one because you might find this if you're bringing in files like this. Let's just pause to do this because let's have a look at this audio file. I've got a feeling that whoever created this loop and uploaded it to the interwebs has just been a little lazy and not got the timing on the end of this loop proper. Yeah, look, there's a little pause. Can you hear that little pause gap at the end there? It's like there's too much space there and it's carrying through. Is it there? Hang on. Let's zoom in here. Oh, it's not lining up with our bars. That's interesting. So we did do the analysis of this, didn't we? Let's just do it again. We'll once again do the tempo analysis because it looks like it looks like Logic Pro hasn't actually aligned this correctly. If we analyze the tempo, and if we go and apply the region, yeah, it's definitely doing that. But you can see there that it's creating some extra space there at the end, which it shouldn't do. So let's take the loop off. There's probably something simple I'm missing here. Again, I'm a learner. I've got my L plates on, well and truly. We'll need to unloop that to start with, just so we can work on this first bit. These are all things that we're going to come across, so we might as well try. So we could just use the stretch. So I'm assuming it would probably work if we just grabbed our stretch, because the problem is it's not actually going right there. But it might have done that deliberately. Well, that hasn't worked, has it? Yeah, no, that didn't do it for us. Let's undo that. Yeah, I'm obviously missing something. I don't use a lot of this sort of thing, so it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. But yeah, when I'm stretching that loop back, it's taking us back like that. Which doesn't seem to be what we want. If we then looped it out from there, let's just see if this will work. If we just very, very roughly treat it like this, if this is going to play like we want. Yeah, no, it's still got that gap at the end there, so which it's creating at the start there. So yeah, I'm just going to delete it all entirely. We'll bring it back in and have a play with that in a moment. But yeah, to answer Leslie's question from a while ago, you absolutely can set manually the length of your project as we've done there. So hopefully that helps out. I'll scroll on down and see if we've got any other questions before I dive in and talk about other things. You can it do time slip? So it can do some. So Logic Pro on Mac has a whole lot of I've forgotten, like beat matching, tempo matching, but also tuning. I've forgotten the word that they use for it, flex time. So it's got a complete flex time. You've got components of that in here, but not as much as you'd expect. Not as much as what the Logic Pro for Mac guys have asked for. So we'll see how that goes. They are useful, but apparently I need to learn more about them, Tom, because I couldn't get it to work the way that I wanted to there. Logic, yes. I thought I saw another question that I had missed from earlier, so I'm just going to scroll back up. John, George, and Adam there. So we'll tag your question, Adam, and yeah, how can I increase? Yeah, so that's the same sort of question. How can I increase the length of my project? Yeah, and Mark has already answered that. So we've just played around with that. Your little arrow at the top there, you can just grab that one. But again, it's non-intuitive. So don't stress if you didn't find it for a while, because I didn't find it for a while either. But it is a good thing. Can you use the keyboard the same as you would on a Mac? Would the shortcuts be the same? We tested a few of these. So on the Q&A show last week, we had someone who was a Mac user, and they asked me to test a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts. They didn't work. So the keyboard shortcuts that are available on a Mac not all of them seem to be available. Your basic ones are, so you can hit your space bar to play, you can hit the R button to record, for instance. They're pretty standard. You can use your Command Z, Command Z to undo. So all of your basic functionalities there, but there are some more advanced things that, so they were getting me to test key presses that were like Control, Option, Command, something, and it wasn't doing the same thing. It was doing nothing when I actually hit on those. Now, I need to explore. I haven't explored in detail, but let's do this live on the fly. Let's go into the Logic Pro user guide and see what we've got in the way of keyboard shortcuts. Do they have an actual section for? I haven't found it before, and if anyone else has, let me know. But I haven't found a whole section that gives you the keyboard shortcuts. We should probably Google it. Let's Google it right now. Logic Pro iPad keyboard shortcuts. Central Guide to Logic Pro. Yeah, see, this is the problem. This is what I found when I first started doing this, is I was getting a whole bunch of results, but they were all, here we go, keyboard shortcuts for the main views in Logic Pro iPad. So Apple do have a section in their support section. Yeah, here we go. So we have, yeah, not many. So there's not a whole heap of keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts for the main views. So I wonder if there's keyboard shortcuts for other views in there. So this one is keyboard shortcuts overview. All right, so keyboard shortcuts overview. All right, so that's what your different things are. Show the keyboard shortcuts. Oh, press the Command key until this page appears. On the keyboard shortcuts that are relevant to the areas, how the focus are displayed. Swipe left or right. Okay, yeah, I forgot about this. And to search for a keyboard shortcut, press and hold the Command key on your external keyboard until the keyboard shortcuts appear. Press Shift Command. What the heck? What is that? Shift Command plus or minus? Is that? I can't even read the. Let's zoom in. Shift Command and. Oh, the slash, / Shift Command / which I guess is the same as the question mark. Start typing the first few letters as you type. The matching keyboard shortcuts are listed. All right, well, let's test this. Let's put this to the test, because this is interesting. This is why I like doing these shows, because we do some deep dives into some interesting things like this. I'm just going to close off a few things that we don't need here. Back to Logic Pro. So press and hold on the Command key, and there you go. So we get our list of shortcuts. So that's pretty cool. So I'll just pop your question out of the way there, Adam, just so we can see these in full. But yeah, if we tap and hold on Command, and if you release it, it stays up there. So that's pretty cool. So we can scroll through all of those, and if we hit on the search button, we can search for something. So if we go record, okay, yep, pretty cool. So I guess from there you can find it. I'm wondering if you go to each different section, we'll just cancel that. Tap Command again. Yep. So let's go, say, to the plugins section here. And if we're in plugins section and we do this, do we get? No, we don't get a separate. We don't get a separate set of those. What about the mixer? Does the mixer have its own set of separate keyboard shortcuts? Yes, it does. There you go. So you've got left and right is your previous channel strip. Show and hide the play surface is P. Oh, that's cool. So P, show and hide plugins area is B, show and hide the fader is V, show and hide the editor is E. I didn't know all this stuff. Show and hide the browser is Y, show and hide the mixer is X, show and hide the inspector is I. Okay, this has instantly made me a lot more going to me. So let's just try some of these. So B is your plugins, X is your mixer. So you can I'm just hitting X and B on the keyboard. I is your inspector. So you can bring the inspector in there. What was the browser? I've forgotten now. See, I'm in a different section now, so it's not here. So I think what this is telling me is that a video on keyboard shortcuts and the most useful keyboard shortcuts is definitely in my future here. Editor is E, so you can show and hide the editor with E. That's cool. So I think I'm going to have to learn these, and I don't know if you can tell me or someone can tell me if they are the same as your Logic Pro, just using those individual letters to get to different things. So oh, that's interesting. Delete the selected track is Command and the delete key. So I was trying to work that out. Duplicate is Command D. Don't get those confused. Duplicate and delete. You'll get yourself into trouble. Toggle the live loops and track area. So yeah, you got cut, copy, paste, obviously. How to show everything. So there's not a heap. So it doesn't look like it's got a lot of more like complex, I guess. Keyboard shortcuts like you would have. It would be good. I'm hoping that there's a shortcut to do that double tap thing to close everything and reopen everything, but I'm not sure. So we'll have to keep looking around to try and find that. Let's see. Show and hide. What about show hide everything? Is that one of them? Play pause, space, yep. Yeah. Let's what about if we go into the MIDI note editor? Is there anything else? Oh, we've got to close out that one. Let's go to a MIDI track. MIDI. And if we're in here, are there MIDI note editing keyboard shortcuts? It's just giving us all the same things. So yeah, so I think to answer your question, Aaron, some of them seem to be there, some of them don't. So you'll have to find out which ones are there and which ones work for you and which ones don't. But it looks like there's a cool way that you can do, which is to hold down the Command key. I wonder if they are programmable. I would say no. Knowing Apple, I don't think they would give you the ability to program your shortcut keys. But having the search there is a good thing, as you've just mentioned. So being able to search out here and go show, hide, place it. Yeah, so you can show and hide each individual thing. I'd just love if there was a show, hide everything button there, but doesn't seem to be. Alrighty. We'll see if we've got any other questions. If you have the browser open to the left, it will show you the plugin presets that makes it like. Yeah, it does. So there's, I think that was a question. I'll go back up because I think Leslie Ann had a question. Reverb and echo are so easy on GarageBand, not so much on Logic Pro. The plugin and the mixer are overwhelming. Is there a simple reverb and echo in Logic Pro? There is, and there is. So what I've said. In fact, let's play with something here. Let's create something so that we can actually use this. So I'm just going to go out here. Let's just use a couple of loops in this project. Just put that one away. If we go to our browser here, let's go and just find some loops and put together some sort of loop that we can play around with. I always like these 70s electric piano. This is the sort of mood I'm in today. So we will import, tempo information. We'll bring the tempo info in there as well so that we can use that. We'll loop it out. We'll get our 8 bars that we were going to play around with before, and we'll move it to there. So now we've got this little sound. But we need it much faster than that. So we'll go to our tempo and we'll dial the tempo up. Let's make it more like 117. That sounds good. Yeah, a little bit of funk it is. We need some drums. Go to our drums. And what sort of drums do we want? We want like some funky drums, don't we? So let's just go. We'll go some... Can we just search funk? Let's search funk. Use our search here. So we'll go funk, and we want disco as well. Sure. Let's find something. What about disco break? No, we don't want break beat sound. We want just a. Actually, maybe that one could work. Let's just bring some stuff together and see what fits. Let's see what this is going to do for us. Interesting. All right, let's bring in some guitar. Yeah, this would be a cool one to play around with some reverb on. All right, so we'll bring that one in. So now we've got ourselves a little bit of a groove. Cool. Cool. All right, so let's get rid of our browser. So let's talk about plugins and how to make these simple. So if we got this guitar sound here, obviously it's got a little bit of built-in flange, but what if we wanted like a nice, I'm hearing like a, like a half note delay on this sucker. So what if we want to make this and do it really simple? Well, we can go into our plugins and add an effects here. So add audio effects, and let's start with a delay. So we'll type in the words D-E-L-A-Y. And what do we want to go with? So, and here's where you're probably going, there's so many different types of delays. But if we go to the delay designer, and at the moment it's by default, it's on, it's 100% wet. And if we play it, doesn't seem to be doing much. But if we double tap on that one, we can start playing around with this. And here's the thing, default presets there. As I think Leela was saying here in the chat, if you want to just start experimenting with different presets, why not just hit your button over here? If you go back and you go into your plugin presets, whatever you've got set over here is going to have a corresponding plugin, and they're here in little sections. So I was talking about wanting a half note. So all these ones are more quarter note, but let's just use a quarter note. So we'll go quarter note alternating pan. And if we tap that one, that's going to add that. You can see it adds it right there to the top. We don't even have to drag it or do anything. And then if we play this, is that actually adding it? Why am I not hearing any difference on that track? Have I added it to the wrong track? No, I'm here on the right track. Did I mention that I'm still learning? Why don't we try? Let's go something more complex that might actually sound. Someone's screaming at me right now saying, "You didn't do this." Let's go complex filtered sounds. Let's just find something really weird that might actually be hearable. It's not adding it to it at all. So don't listen to a word that I say, because apparently I don't have the knowledge of using these. It's there, it's on, and it's soloed. Let's see what folks are yelling at me and telling me that I'm doing wrong here in the chat. No one's correcting me, but yeah, maybe it's just that play. Let's try a different delay. I'm proving Leslie Ann's point here that this is not as simple as perhaps it should be. What if we just go with the reverb, the Chroma Verb reverb plugin here, and see if this is going to give us an actual sound different. I think I'm on a different track. I think you're right. Thank you, Emilio. You need to be on the track header, not the track. This is the problem. I had that selected the whole time rather than this one. I was playing around on this one, but that's a simple thing. Now let's see. Can we drag plugins from one to another? I don't think we can. Let's see if we come in here to the mixer. Can we drag it from one to the other? I don't think so. I don't think they're movable. So we'll just have to re-add these. Thank you, Emilio. Thank you for coming in and saving us. And you might say, well, that's a bit embarrassing. But again, if you're listening to the start of the show, I made no bones about the fact that I'm far from an expert in Logic Pro. I've been using it for literally like 3 weeks, just like everyone else. I had a couple of weeks head start. But yeah, I'm still finding things that are not as intuitive as perhaps I would have thought. Let's go back to the start and do exactly what we did there. So the default, just cut all that out. Pretend that never happened, and we'll explain it to you again. Alrighty, let's play this. That's better. So you can hear the delay now. All right, double tap on that one, come over here, and then we can start actually adding in. So let's just go a simple delay here. Why don't we do an alternating pan quarter note delay on this guitar? There you go. Leela's got a good tip here. I just duplicate it, the settings, and then drag the regions in. That's another way to go if you wanted to move the same plugins. So to Leela's point, if we just double tap to close this out, if we duplicated this, duplicate it, then we could move this to here. And then we've got those plugins that we'd already put on this wrong track on the right track. Except it's a MIDI track. So forget it. Yeah, don't do that. Don't try and mix your tracks because the audio is not going to work on a MIDI track. I don't imagine anyway. But let's go back to this. So yes, so you've selected your correct track like that. Track header, not region. Okay, there you go. Tip for young players. If you're tapping on the region but you've got a different track selected, it's not going to help. So you need to be on the track header to go to the right one there. So we can just adjust this, and because I've put that quarter note delay on there now, like say we want it to be, 3/4 of the dry sound and 1/4 of the wet sound, we can dial that in. That's pretty cool. So that's a pretty simple way to go. And if we want to do the same with a reverb, we can just add a new effect, and we'll go this time to the chroma verb. Same sort of thing here. If we just wanted to use like a room sound here, and we just, like we would in GarageBand, you just wanted like what would we go with? Like a vocal room. What should we do? Or small wet room. You can see it'll automatically change that sound so that we've got the effect that we're looking for. And we can change it. That sounds cool. Yeah, I like it. And the other thing we could do, which we probably won't cover today because it's a little bit of a next level of complexity thing, is use things like sends and aux buses to create one place. So if you were going to do this, so if you wanted to have all these tracks and then you wanted to send them all into a similar sort of space with delay and reverb like we've done there, what you can do is actually create those as an aux track and then send little bits of these tracks. That's a next level kind of thing that, again, don't worry too much about if you haven't already started with. But let's review now that I've learnt the mistake that I've made. Select your track by tapping on the track header. Go to the plugins and then add whichever plugin you want to use. Once you're adding it here, so say we're going to add a compressor now, then go over to your browser and you've got some basic presets that you can already use. So if we wanted to go in here and we wanted to use this crunch guitar compressor, and we'll put it at the start of our chain by hitting the edit button, just dragging it over, and then hit the edit button again. Then again, we've got this compressor. It's got its default presets in there, and we can use these little knobs to give it, like to change the threshold, to change the attack speed and the release speed of the compressor, and then bring these all together. But to your point, to your very valid point, Leslie, yeah, it is more complex. There's more going on there. I do miss the times of just going over to the left and going master reverb, master delay, chuck them on a little bit on each track, and it glues it together nicely. But it is different, but it does have a lot more power. But you can keep it simple, sucker, for people like me. Nice. Right. Let's see. Oh, Metalhead Hippie is playing Thomas Christ's song. Do check out Thomas Christ. He does great shows. He does his U-Rock show and Thomas Christ Live. Metalhead Hippie does a live music playing kind of show that you can go over and check out if that's your bag. Right, if you've got any other questions, let me know. We've got about 12 minutes left to have a bit of a chat here. I'll return. Can you copy and paste a drummer track to a regular drum for editing a piano roll? I believe you can. There's definitely a way. Let's create a drummer track, because this is a good point, Mark. Because what we've had to do in GarageBand for a long time is, if you've got a drummer track and you want to edit it, there was a really clunky workaround that you had in GarageBand to do that. I'm pretty sure drummer tracks have a very simple option here to convert to. There it is. Convert to MIDI region. There you are. That's it. That's all you need to do. You just tap it and convert it that way. Can you convert it back? Convert to drummer region. Yeah. Or you can, what are the other conversion options? You can separate by articulation. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, that's cool. So you can separate out and it creates like an articulated drum track where you can have. That's cool. So you can actually control each and every different part. So you could turn down. So we'll just go back to here. Wait, no, the volume seems to control everything still, but I'm assuming we can come in here and edit each section. Yeah, okay. That's cool. So we'd be able to add in, let's add a bunch of hi-hats at the end here. So you can edit your own drummer patch, your drummer performances. That's pretty cool. Where did we put that there? Here it comes. Yeah, cool. All right, so there's a lot of stuff in here, and I think I mentioned that in my tips video that there's so much under the hood. Like even something simple like drummer can become fairly complex to be able to play around with. So short answer is yes. That's it. Yes, exactly. The master reverb and echo in GarageBand are actually adding reverb and delay sends, utilizing the plugins behind the scenes, which you'll see if you open it. Yeah, if you've ever opened a GarageBand project into Logic Pro, you'll see that there's a reverb and a delay send, and any master reverb or master echo and master reverb that you've added will be added in, and you'll be able to see it in your Logic Pro folder, which is pretty good. Alrighty. You can't mix them individually. Yeah, so it sounds like Jade's got a workaround for doing that. But you can indeed just convert it to MIDI. Convert to MIDI region. And then you could, even if you just wanted, if you were familiar with using the way that we've done before, you can separate them out onto individual tracks, I'm sure. And when I say I'm sure, as we've been discussing, I'm not sure. Because I'm not sure of anything, which is fine. Don't know what I've done now that I've actually got both of those. Now that I've got the MIDI region and I've got the separated out regions. But I'm assuming if I edit things here, it'll actually edit them down in the other region. Oh, man. And I'll reiterate my point that I made earlier, which is don't worry so much about any of this stuff. If you're not going to use it, or if you're learning as you go like I am, then don't worry about what you don't know. Just start creating. And this is the thing. I've learned, most of the stuff I've learned in Logic Pro has been while creating a song, which is what I've been doing in previous weeks. So I don't like the, I wish I could just remove that entirely. I never use the cycle and it just confuses the crap out of me. So I wish I could just get rid of the cycle. I know some people love it. I tend to dislike it. Oh, it's kept one of them. There's my weird thing that I added at the end. So yeah, there are options if you want to play around with that. But again, don't be intimidated by this stuff, because if you're like me, if you're a simple person and you're like me, I would just delete that whole business. Delete it. And you can just use drummer like you've always used it. Oh man, we've got a whole bunch now. Let's multi-select them with the shift button, shall we? And we'll delete the lot. So yeah, I do like this one. I do like the delete unused track option. This is cool. Get rid of anything that you have that's just lying around that you don't need. All right, so let's add a drummer. So yeah, if you want to use drummer just like you've always used drummer, just dial it in and use your different things. You've just got your complexity and your intensity. You've got your same patterns that you've always used here, and everything can be familiar. And you've even got the follow option, but it's just under here. So you can follow. Let's follow that original break sound. Let's see what this will bring into this. Double drums, bro. Yeah. Alrighty. Okay. Undo. Undo is your friend, yes. The undo needs to be bigger. The undo should be like the size of a quarter of the screen. Alrighty. Yes, and there are definitely, the other thing is this is a version 1.0 of software. So do keep that in mind, that if you're finding things, yeah, rather than going into forums and getting frustrated about them, either just accept them and keep working and hope that they patch them in the future, or even better, log yourself a bug report over to Apple, and they will be able to actually do something about it potentially. And as Leela says, we talked about this, and we might finish on this for this one. Yeah, what about this? Leela says its faults are simply charming little bugs, and I'm in love. Yeah, look, I think this will be the platform that I use in the future, not just because it's the flavor of the month. It is, let's be honest, it's the flavor of the month. But I think I will be using it at least in the first year to see if I do need the features. So, what I've recommended to other folks is don't just jump on board. If GarageBand or if Cubasis or if Audio Pro or whatever you're using is doing everything you need it to do, you don't need this. In fact, it will reduce the amount of music. So for me, I'm working on a song at the moment, the song that you heard at the start, which I probably would have finished by now if I was doing it in GarageBand. So it is actually using a new piece of software will often actually reduce the speed and the ease at which you create music. So keep that in mind, that if your number one goal is simply to create, record, and release your best music, you probably don't want to be switching your DAW regularly or without good reason. But if there's stuff in here that you think that you'll dig, for me, the number one thing, and it's something that could have been added to GarageBand, is the ability to have a stereo out track to control my overall volume. Because even in just a track like this, where I can play it here, that they would go now, you can see that I'm already starting to get up and clip. So the overall volume of this, I now know, well, hey, I need to bring all that down. So I can do that by adjusting each individual track, or I can even just do it, if I wanted to cheat and go the easy way, by dropping the overall stereo track, which is just something you simply can't do in GarageBand. And then to be able to export it without any auto normalization is, again, the secondary thing. So those two simple things are not exactly, like I'm not in there using Beat Breaker, I'm not in there using Drum Kit Designer. I've never needed that level of complexity of stuff, and most people don't. That's the thing. You've got to think about that in terms of, this is going to be 90% of people are going to use 10% of the features in this. And then 10% of the people are going to use 90%. It's the way that things work in everything. It's 80-20 rule usually. 80% of people will use only 20% of the features. That's about right in pretty much everything. So of the 945-page manual, if you read the first two chapters and learn how to record, that's where most people are going to get to. But if you want to dive in and do more, you can. You do you. But don't forget, what is your overall aim? Is your aim to know all the tricks and all the ways to do all the things and then never actually implement them? No, leave that to us. Leave that to Jade and Patrick and myself and the dudes from the Logic Pro channels who will dive in there. And then if you ever need anything like that, if you're like, oh, how did you do multiple tempos again? Then you can search it out and you can find it and you can learn about the tempo track and you can learn how to set your tempo track and how to actually utilize it here in GarageBand. GarageBand? How about Logic Pro for iPad? So thank you again for those who've joined us. Yes, thank you, Adam. Sorry, I ticked your little question. Yeah, tiny little arrow next to the question button. That's the one that you get. Yeah, the keyboard shortcuts are cool, as we talked about earlier. I'll finish on this one because this is probably my number one find, which is going to help me the most. Because I dived into the help file and tried to find the keyboard shortcuts, but it told me just hold down your command key, Johns, and I'm like, this is what it was in GarageBand. How did I forget this? Hold down your command key, and wherever you are, it'll give you context-sensitive keyboard shortcuts. So this is what I'll be focusing on to learn as I continue creating this song, because I think this will speed up. Because I must admit, one of my least favorite things is finding the little buttons, especially if you're using a mouse or using the trackpad. And sometimes when you actually tap or click on the mouse, it doesn't actually work. So tapping on your things out here are usually fine, but there's some particular ones. I think it's mostly things like, if I dropped, oh, hang on, can't use that one. If you drop like an audio file onto another track to try and create like a new track from it, like this. Oh, yeah, the buttons like these that come up. Yeah, look at that. That's an example. I highlight it, I click it with my mouse, and it just unselects. I usually have to double click it, which is not the way it's supposed to actually work at all. So yeah, so learning things like Command Z instead of having to go up here and find this one. In fact, is there a redo? Is it Command Y to redo, or is it Shift Command Z to read? Yeah, Shift. There you go. Shift Command Z. Command Z undo. Shift Command Z redo. There you go. Learned something new. So yeah, hold down your Command key wherever you are, and as we showed earlier, if you're in, say, the editor mode, and you hold down the Command key, it's going to give you. Is that the same? Oh no, that's got some slightly different ones. The mixer had its own set as well. So if you're in the mixer, hold down the Command key, and yeah, you can show a bunch of other things you can do there, such as selecting the previous channel strip, next channel strip, so left and right. See, this is the simple sort of stuff that when I'm here in the mixer, I will now utilize, because sometimes it's easier than trying to just click each individual one to go, oh, I want to go to that track over there. All right, right. And then I'm on that track, and left. So yeah, hold down your Command key, get your list of keyboard shortcuts, and you're off to the races. Alrighty, that is going to do it for this little Q&A session. I just thought it's always good, because I'm learning from you folks. I'm learning what the questions are, and it helps me, because all of the videos I've made so far, which again, if you go to logicipad.com, they're all over there, and that's the playlist. So what have we got in there? We've got 21 videos, 3 weeks, and we've got 21 videos. That's a video a day. So there's plenty of videos over there that are going to give you the basics, and I've been very much focused in on the basics. We will get there. Remember, we've had 7 years of GarageBand videos, and we've had 3 weeks of Logic Pro. So we won't have everything there immediately, but the benefit, or what I like to think of the benefit of having me do this and be the guinea pig and go along, is that I'm finding out from my own experience and from the questions I'm getting from you, what are the most common things. And for me, the most common things are just things like, how do you come in here and change your control bar? So the control bar here doesn't have, by default, the guitar tuner on there, and I wanted the guitar tuner on there. So that was one of the simplest things I did. Over here on your track headers, you're customizing your track headers. It doesn't have input monitoring on by default, so just turning that on has been a game changer. And I got a question the other day about fading in and fading out from our friend Jerry Gomes. And again, it's not, there's no simple way to do that in here. You have to use your automation track on your stereo out. So just being able to quickly learn that and show how to use automation there. I don't know what's going on there. I've obviously been playing around with this and did a weird experimental thing, because I didn't realize I had that on that track. Let's delete that, shall we? I don't think we need that. Off. We'll just turn it off for now. So yeah, the things that you're going to find as you go along, but the key thing is, use what you want to use. Don't use what you don't need to use, and don't spend time stressing and worrying. I know it's easy. I get overwhelmed pretty much every time I open it, but as I say with other things, no one starts something, does a whole bunch of work to learn it and study it and get better at it, and then end up worse. So you are going to get there. You are going to be able to get there with Logic Pro if you choose to. And guess what? If you don't need any of the features and you go back to GarageBand in the end, more power to you. There's definitely no prerequisite or requirement to stick around if you don't want to. But if you're on the free trial, you've got about a week left. If you haven't checked out the free trial, you can jump on over and download it from the App Store for free for the first month. And then, as I mentioned, you can pay a monthly or a yearly subscription. So yeah, there'll be people scrambling in the next week to work out, is this for me? Do I keep it? Yeah, there is. As Thomas says, there is tons and tons to learn in this app if you want to learn it. All right, that is going to do it for this one. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow we've got the happy hour, where I'm revisiting my 2020 EP called My Own Battle. Own Battle is the name. So we'll be playing some songs from that. We've then got Your Music Live kicking off on Sunday afternoon or evening, or Monday morning here in Australia, and then GarageBand Weekly. Yes, we're going to be asking the question, and I'm going to be putting it out there. For GarageBand users, will you be making the switch? What are the choices? So I'll be giving you some final pros and cons if you've been doing this for a month like me. Final pros and cons as to whether you should take the plunge and go all Logic Pro, or whether GarageBand is going to be good enough for you. Because it's still good. Don't get me wrong. It is still good. I know. Logic Pro, flavor of the month, GarageBand still does the job. Thanks for being here, folks. Appreciate you, as we say at the end of each and every show. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, keep creating, and I'll see you next time here on Studio Live.